All right, so let's get started. So good morning, everyone. We are going to be talking about veterans, remote support services, and engagement. My name is Dr. Juan Carlos Garcia. I'm a counselor coordinator at the Veterans Resource Center at Cypress College. And a little bit about myself is I'm a first generation college student. I'm the first one in my family to join the military. I'm a post 9/11 veteran, Operation Enduring Freedom from 2005 till 2006. I graduated from a community college, got my bachelor's from Cal State Fullerton, my master's from USC, and I recently got my doctorate degree from Cal State Long Beach. Uh, as many of you have experience with working with vets, especially the post 9/11 veterans, I also experienced a lot of transition obstacles. I got out in 2008 during the influx of OIF and OEF vets. First time going to school, I struggled a lot myself. There wasn't a lot of services back during those times. At each stage of my career, at each stage of each degree, I actually missed what a VRC could support me with. So I kind of struggled on my own, tried to figure everything else, benefits and all that stuff. There were some people at, especially my first community college where I received some guidance and that really helped out. But aside from that, I didn't really receive like good VRC support services because they weren't created yet. So I'm definitely missed out on that, but I use a lot of my experience as a OEF vet and as a college student of how I struggled to be able to help out students now.
All right, cool. So my name is Kevin Benitez. I know some people in here already. My background, I'm a faculty leader, or I guess it would be the coordinator, but my official title is faculty leader and a counselor at Santa Monica College for the Veterans Resource Center. Like Dr. Garcia, I am a OIF, OEF veteran. I served in the Army from 2000 to 2005. Basically similar to what Juan was saying, when I got out in 2005, there was no post 9/11 GI Bill. That's how old I am. But we had the regular GI Bill, Chapter 30. Juan and I, Dr. Garcia and I shared that when we were going to school, there were no VRCs. So it's kind of interesting that we're in this new world now where we do have VRCs, but a lot of the services we can't offer like we used to, because we don't have, the students can't physically go to our location. So I think it's critical that we think of creative ways to try to engage the students in a remote environment. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
And also, we want to let you all know that this session is being recorded. And then, if you would like closed captioning, the option is at the bottom of the screen that will allow you to close caption on your end.
Yep. All right. So this is basically what we're trying to do is point out some of the learning outcomes. So we hope that at the completion of this session, participants will gain a broad knowledge on current tools, resources available to implement a remote support services online. And the hope is that we all can kind of collaborate with each other and share best practices so we could assist our students. And then the second learning outcome is at the completion of this session, participants will gain a broad knowledge on current tools and available resources available to engage students remotely.
Okay, and then this is just to kind of get some of those thoughts going because this is going to be somewhat of a hands-on workshop. So we are actually going to be breaking you guys up into groups so we could share some information about what we're all doing, because as we all know, in different areas, we have different types of support system, different resources that are available to us. So not everyone looks the same, especially when it comes to providing services remotely or even in person. So I think it's good if and it's a good exercise to kind of just and to kind of just share with each other and get to know each other a little bit more, because everything that we do is we do it to help out veterans, right? We do it to help out other military affiliated students, whether they're active duty, reservists, guards, even dependents or family members. So and every region is going to look different. The needs are going to look different. So by starting this conversation, it's like I think more than ever, it's important more than ever now that we try and implement and create services that are online, because unfortunately, or however you want to see it, is we are working remotely during this pandemic. And so I think for Kevin and myself, we both have a master's in social work, and we use, I guess, maybe the social work mentality to kind of create and develop and implement support services. And usually, I think for both of us, the way we were kind of trained through the social work program is always understanding what the problem or what the needs are, and then from there, being able to figure out what resources we have to implement support services, and then so in the next slide, we're actually going to break it down a little bit more into some things that you want to think about when you're trying to implement new services, or trying to understand the population. And I think one of the biggest things that we should all be doing is really looking at what literature is saying about the population that we're working with. There's definitely a lot of good information about the post 9/11 veteran experience transitioning to college life, right? I think that helped the chancellor's office develop the three pillars that it has set for us to follow, which is academics, wellness, and camaraderie. But aside from that, also the evolution of the student population has changed. Kevin and I were actually talking about that the other day, and not sure if you guys have seen it, but I feel like it's a changing population. During the influx back in 2008, 2009, there was a big veterans wanted that camaraderie. They needed that because it was an experience that many others couldn't understand. So having a place like a VRC to kind of gather and share those share and talk about those shared experiences really helped them cope with maybe some of the things that they were going through, and find a place where they felt comfortable. But at least on at my site, there's been a small change there. The camaraderie piece, it's still there, but it's not as strong as it used to be. And I think Kevin has also kind of experienced that as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that the biggest portion, I don't know if it has to do too much with the lack of, I guess, the combat experience that brings people together, right? To going through a traumatic event together creates like a brotherhood, a sisterhood. I think that plays a role, but I think that we have to be like innovative in how we think of veterans nowadays, right? The new style or the new type of veteran, I feel like it's completely different. Like the camaraderie, like Dr. Garcia was saying, the camaraderie is there, but it's not the same. And it seems like they're reliant a lot more on us, because of it's almost like we're required to do a lot more hand holding and stuff like that. So I'm sure other colleges here have also seen a big shift in how the new veterans are coming out of the military.
Yeah, and I think what really helps really understand the current population is really using local data and student input to develop and implement services. So what I like to do is I like to look at numbers, using literature, using local data, student input through surveys helps us really understand what the current needs are. For example, at Cypress, our current population is about 900 military affiliated students. Out of those, our dependent numbers have almost tripled from 2008, it's gone from 14% to 38%. So there's definitely a growing demand of needs of our dependent students of what benefits they may be entitled to. So really like understanding that part. Also, age, we know that our students are non-traditional students, so they have different needs than the general student population. So really understanding what their needs are. Also like placement scores, placements, AB 705 really force students to jump into either college level or college level English and math. So figuring out what those needs are, so really like taking a look at that data, and I'll share some more data on a future slide to kind of share like kind of what we've been doing with that. And then who is part of your support system? So, I mentioned that I recently got my doctorate degree, and it really focused on the experiences of VRC administrators and looking at, what the barriers are, what the facilitators are, and really finding out like the type of support systems that each campus has. And like I mentioned at the beginning, each campus is very different. They have different types of support resources that are available to them, to really trying to use what's available to leverage and find ways to support our student vets. And then through like my dissertation also, like we found ways on how to leverage support and how to overcome barriers to create positive environments and positive relationships within the campus to implement good support services. Also, we'll be talking about like what resources are available. I think for a long time, I'm sure you've heard him talk. Terrence Nelson, definitely someone that took myself and Kevin under his wing and taught us a lot of things that are available to us to help out our student vets. And yes, it's a lot of hard work, but if you're able to do it, if you find ways to find resources such as student equity, and even now with the state allocated funds, leveraging those funds to find ways to either get more staffing or provide more services to vets, like that'll help out a lot of our students. In addition, I'm fortunate enough to have a very supportive campus, a very supportive dean, who allows me to do fundraisers. So every year we have a 5K where we're able to fundraise for additional support for our students. Going after private donors and going after grants. It's a lot of hard work, definitely a lot of hard work. But if we're not doing that, then we just kind of remain in the status quo, and we're not able to progress or evolve along with our student population.
Right.
So one of the things that we do at Cypress College is we use Cranium Cafe as our front desk. Students are able to access Cranium. Incoming students, current students are able to ask questions. I do have a few via WorkStudy who man those posts type of deal, and they answer questions during our working hours. They students, if someone isn't offline or they're coming to us after working hours, they're able to leave a message on there, and then we'll be able to get back to them. And that's probably our main source of our remote distance support system that we have set up. We actually came up on Cranium Cafe a week after the lockdown. And for me, it was important to create something that, or not create, but develop something that students could access right away, because I'm sure that, at least on my end, they definitely had a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, and being able to set something up that fast for them to know that we're there to support them was important for us to make sure that we implemented. Whether you use Cranium Cafe, whether you use Zoom or any other platform, have something set up, have something that's accessible to students, because they're stressing out, and we want to make sure that they know that we're here to support them. So having something set up for them to access is beneficial for them, and it'll just help help maybe even alleviate some of the stress that you have answering questions, especially emails, right? Emails, we've been getting a lot of emails. Um, Another program that we have is we call it our First Year Advantage program, and that is our mentorship program. And fortunately, we were one of the schools that was selected for the VRC grant for the state, and uh, and I was able to hire a special projects manager, Mr. Nick Gutierrez, and we had this idea of providing mentorship services because that's what literature says, right? It says if you provide a mentorship program, students have a higher chance to succeed. And especially with our population, I think the additional services that we can provide is a benefit to them, and it helps them achieve their goal. And then one of the biggest things that came from this is that, um, you know, at Cypress, we're really heavy on research, on numbers and student input. And one of the things that happened right away as soon as uh, the COVID shutdown happened was that students needed ways to figure out how to navigate Canvas. For many of them, it was the first time using Canvas online. For a lot of our faculty, it's the first time using Canvas. So through Mr. Gutierrez's Jumpstart training, it's a 1 week type of boot camp before school starts, where he exposes them to English and math, because as we know, for many of our students, they've been away from school for 4+ years. So trying to exposing them to English and math, and also exposing them to what Canvas is, how Zoom is working out, how our system Cranium looks. It makes it easier for them to kind of get a head start, and through that it gives them a better chance of um of like excelling in school, because the first 2 weeks of school can be traumatizing for some, especially first 2 weeks of school on an online setting can be maybe a make or break for a lot of people. All right. But our First Year Advantage program also provides check-ins with our students, whether it's through Zoom. We also have weekly workshops, or bi-weekly workshops actually, where we have different organizations within the community who share what resources they have, because as many of us know, our students have that warrior mentality where they don't want to seem as weak, or they don't want to ask for help. So if we give them the information, then they can record that on their end, and if they feel comfortable enough, then they'll reach out to those organizations to ask for help if they don't want to come to us. We also have a book loan program and a book voucher program, calculators, computers that they could check out. As we all know, books are not as cheap as they were. Maybe when we were back in school. Math book now costs $200-300, and accounting and all those subjects are those books are pretty expensive. So trying to offset some of that cost through maybe the allocated funding that we get, or going after those grants or fundraising, helps out the students. We also have peer mentor connections. Through our peer mentor connections, um, we I do have a couple mentor coaches that offer additional support, case management style for our student vets, and they also connect them with people in the field, our alumni that have graduated from Cypress, that have transferred from Cypress to different Cal State UCs, and they share their experience once they transferred to those schools as well, or once they got that job in the field. Um, you know, we have a student, Daryl. He actually graduated from Cypress, transferred to Cal State Long Beach, got his electrical engineering degree, and now he's working for Southern California Edison. And he is a great advocate or a great mentor as well, that comes to campus, and now it just presents through Zoom about his experience, and kind of connects with other vets, the first year students that are coming in, and they're able to see that, hey, this guy, 3-time combat vet, contractor after he got out, he was able to make it. Like he found ways to do it, and it's just finding those connections, giving them some motivation to excel in their program. Academic counseling, many of us either again use Zoom, Cranium, over the phone and email. Zoom seems to be, the go-to for us. We also use Cranium because it allows us to upload files and show. It's a little bit more friendly for the students. Um, but Zoom also works. If you're not using Zoom to provide any type of service, that's a suggestion that I would make. It's free, um, so it's something that we also have we're part of the contract with the chancellor's office, CCC Confer. So that's a way to connect with students, whether you want to do workshops, you want to check in with students over the phone and phone and email. That's another way. I know sometimes that is harder, but having the ability to get back to them um, as fast as you can, even though, it could take, maybe a day or two, but letting them know like, hey, I'm busy at the moment. I'll be able to get back to you, maybe in a day. Just give me some time because you could lose them if they don't hear back from you. Right. Also, getting to know what types of resources you have on campus. At least for us, we fall under student support services, and our IT office, uses the VRC as a guinea pig for any new program or any new software that they get, which is good because I'm willing to try anything that comes out to support our students. So we probably all have VPN now, right? So I remember being one of the first ones to start testing that out for the campus and giving suggestions and stuff like that. So being able to volunteer yourself to the campus to kind of try out new things for the campus to help out could be a benefit to students because we'll be the first ones in to start implementing those services. Um, we now have voice over IP. So I remember at the beginning we had to use Google Voice to communicate with our students. Trying to maintain our own like privacy. Google Voice was probably the only option during that time. But now we have voice over IP, and that affords us the ability to maintain our office phone numbers and use that as our main communications of over the phone.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Garcia. That was really informative. I have another one thing that I wanted to add to something you said in the beginning with the new student veteran population. So two things that I mean, both the literature say and what we're starting to see. If you think about the time that these OEF veterans joined the military, right? So for example, I joined in 2000, right? So 2001, 9/11 happened, and then we end up, going to Iraq, Afghanistan. If you start thinking about when they joined, they're all retiring now. So if you think about it, they have to do 20 years. So they're all retiring 2020, 2021. And what we're seeing is that we're getting a lot of older veterans. But when I say older, they're like 38, 39. And they have a lot of issues with, self-doubt, whether it's like they're a single dad, single mom, they have family they're trying to support. They're really reliant on the GI Bill. And then the other thing we're seeing a lot, something that Dr. Garcia mentioned is the dependents, right? So a lot of the people that are retiring, they maybe put in a couple, 2-3 years extra to be able to share those dependent benefits with their kids, right? So, or with their spouse. So that's why I believe we're seeing a big influx in the dependents because we're seeing it at Santa Monica too. So one thing that we did for ours is that we realized that the students, they were having a hard time adjusting to going to Canvas, right? So all of a sudden, if you're a student that was on ground like me, I hate online classes. I'm not self-motivated. I can't do it. I would, look at the Canvas shell and be like, what is this? Where do I click? What am I clicking on? So what ended up happening is that everybody just shifted all of a sudden, and it was very hard, during the spring. But what we realized is that because all the classes, at least at SMC, were on a Canvas shell, then the students were paying more attention to Canvas, where if I'm sure everybody can relate to this, where we had emails that were just buried in our emails, right? We were getting hundreds of emails, students emailing us, and email fatigue is real. So we were going through this, and we realized that the best way to reach the students was doing a Canvas shell for the VRC. So we made a separate Canvas shell just for our VRC. And what the cool thing is, I mean, what I'll do is, I think instead of showing this slide, maybe I can just share my screen real quick. I'm going to share my screen, Juan, just real quick. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so I hope, can you see that, Dr. Garcia? You guys can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is what our VRC Canvas shell looks like, right? So these, what a student would normally see is they would see their classes all lined up here. And then once they click on this, as far as the class, it takes them to the VRC Canvas shell, right? I think the one unique thing that you'll find with in regards to this, it has all the information in there as if it was a class. So when students are looking for alerts, notifications, assignments due, right, from professors, they go to Canvas, right? So what we found is that when we send them notifications through Canvas, we're actually getting a hold of them better than if we send them an email. So what they can do here, the one unique thing, and I guess I have to refrain from showing everything because of the fact that because of FERPA, I want to be able to protect the students' identity, but I can show real quick, for example, discussions, right? Students can post stuff on here, and it'll show, straight up like, hey, how are you doing, right? We have Student Veterans of America. So when we click on this, so this is Daniela, she's our project manager. And so she's the one that set up the Canvas, to be completely honest. I can't take credit for it. We just came up with the idea and then she set it up. And basically it was like, hey, how are you doing, right? And then you have all the students that post stuff, right? Hope everyone is well. Then, Daniela would respond. So we would have the three people that would monitor this would be myself, Daniela, and Martha Romano, who's our senior certifying official. And then you see like comments from students, right, that are going on there talking about stuff. Is there anything set up to where students in Voc Rehab program can get required books through SMC online bookstore? My class starts April 20th, right? I'm clueless on what to do, right? So you have, Daniela that responds, or the cool thing is that you may have another person, another student that may respond, right? So they go to the post, if they have their notifications set up, they get the alert that somebody posted something, right? So then Daniela there provides the resource, right? Here's another one, right? How can I get documentation to recommend or approve to which laptop I can get through Voc Rehab, right? As a computer science major, as focused studying Mac. So Daniela responds again, right? And then you have everybody can post anything and then another person can respond to it. So it's kind of nice to have that with the students. And then the other unique thing that I want to point out, when it comes to announcements, we send a blast of announcements, and you can see here Martha's very active on it. So you have a food pantry, toy drive. I mean, all these announcements go to the students, right? So what happens is that when they receive the alert on their email, it doesn't come through like a regular just email. It'll actually say Canvas notification. So a student is more likely to check that because they're thinking it's a post from a professor. It's somebody's trying to reach out to them. Oh crap, an assignment's due. So they're logging into Canvas to see it. And that's what provides us the ability to contact them faster, right? Vets Club meeting. I mean, literally every single announcement, flyers, anything that anybody sends me from any other schools goes here. So it gets sent out to the students. And then the one other thing that I want to show that's, I would say the best unique feature of this is if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see view course analytics, right? And like Dr. Garcia said, we're always following stats, right? Statistics and looking at activity. So if you see here, we started the Canvas shell in March, right? When COVID hit, and then you see the activity of the students. And the cool thing is that you can actually see how many students are active and also what they're viewing on this Canvas shell. So you can see in March, we had 33 students, right? And then 879 page views. So those 33 students were just looking all over Canvas for information, right? And then we kept posting more information. We kept posting more information, right? We had to basically market the fact that we had a Canvas, right? And then you see the start of the summer semester, everybody's using Canvas, right? So you have, I mean, everything kind of fluctuates and goes up and down. Then you have the fall where everybody's kind of more comfortable with Canvas, and you could see it all on the right-hand side there, September, October, November, and it'll show you all your participants, the page views, what they're looking at, what they're clicking on. And that helps you, the data helps you kind of narrow things down to engage the students better. And so then you have, I mean, it's treated like a class. So you'll see things like this, like submissions, grades, but that's not something that, you know, we use necessarily, but you have all these students that are in Canvas. I mean, these are all of our veterans, and then it'll show you the data of what it is that they're going into. So for example, this student here, 396, right? This student here, 861 things that they basically had clicked on or looked at on the page views, right? This person here, 633, right? So you could see the data of what they're looking at, and that way you can narrow it down. And you could also see what students are not looking at, right? And what students are not going in there and clicking on. And these are all, they're all veterans or dependents at our campus. And the one other thing that's really cool about this is that they don't opt in. If they're part of our program, they automatically get the VRC Canvas shell on their Canvas when they log in. So if they're in our program, they automatically get it. So it's not something they get to opt in or choose to get out of. So the only thing they could do is change the notifications. So the notifications, you know, if they get annoyed with notifications, they could change that. So that was the one like main thing with the Canvas shell. I think that it's very important to look at the analytics with the students. And then the other, I stopped sharing screen. Dr. Garcia, can you pull up the slides again? I think
Yeah.
I could pull it up on mine. I mean, I'm gonna, let's see here. Okay, because I need to share my, okay. And the
You got
next,
it?
yeah, so it's the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, and I saw somebody in the chat said that it's very useful post-COVID. Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome. A lot of students, if you probably had it also, when you look at the students that you're helping now, I usually talk to the students because I do counseling as well on Mondays and Thursdays. A lot of them are saying that they would like for us to continue remote, even though they're back on campus. Like Dr. Garcia was saying, a lot of the Zoom meetings are happening at work. I've had students that were volunteering, working at hospitals, nurses, and they're doing their counseling session at the hospital. You know, they have their mask on, their whole equipment on, and they're like, hey, I'm on a lunch break. I'm glad you could squeeze me in, right? So it's better than them having to drive to campus to meet with a counselor. So we're most likely going to keep a lot of these services available. And then this is the next one, is the remote support services. We have we're thinking of we thought of a name, but the main name that we wanted to name it is the Got Your Six program. If anybody knows me in here, they know that I'm very big on peer-to-peer support. So we do a training basically where we train, we have veterans that have applied to the applied to the program, and they go through an application process to find out if they're eligible for it. And the way that they're eligible is we have certain requirements, right? They have to have completed 1 year at Santa Monica College, right? They have to have a GPA of 2.75 and be in good academic standing, possess integrity, respect, courage, and exceptional attitude. I'm pulling these exactly from the application. And then they have to be a veteran or current military member of the U.S. Armed Services, but it is including reservists and National Guard. And then they have to be willing to commit 15 hours per semester to mentoring. And what we did this year, we had 111 new students enroll at SMC, and we attached all 111 to the 8 peer mentors that we had. The students, the part where we attach them to it is kind of mandatory. It's just they don't get a choice, but they can opt out of the program once they're in. So if they realize like, hey, my peer mentor is sending me too many messages, I don't really need this stuff, I'm good, they can opt out of it. So that's the one cool thing. And then in order for them to send the messages, we use this app called Remind. And we learned from this about this app. It's free and it's a way to text students. And the way that it works is that it has a, here, I'll just share my screen real quick, see where, okay, let's see here. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. I basically erased, well, I didn't erase it, but I hid the students just for the purpose of to show this. But the way it works is you can use this on your desktop and you could send a new message to anybody, right? In this case here, we would have a list of all students and you could add students here. This software, this app is free. And the limitations that it has is that, where's that here? I want to pull up the slides that I had because I had the notes on there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the limitations that this app has is that it is free, but it has well, actually, I'll go further into the app in a little bit and the slide later down. The main resource of this app is that you're able to text students. And like Dr. Garcia was saying, the quickest way to get a hold of them is the best way. So they always want an answer fast. So what ends up happening is that they'll end up emailing and it gets buried in somewhere in our emails. We won't respond to them. Then we get an irate student or a student that missed a deadline or something like that. You can use this app to upload files, right? And you could send messages, right, to students. So this is, for example, you can use Remind with professors, right? So for example, this is just an example. You could have a professor that is part of your Remind app. Let's say if they're a ally on campus, we have English professors, we have math professors that are allies. We can add them into the SMC VRC Remind app. And then what happens is students, when they message back and forth, they'll be able to message the instructor directly instead of us having to, let's say if a student comes to us and says, hey, I'm having a problem with my English teacher, then we have to go and move on to go email that English teacher or the department chair. Now it's more mainstream. It's just fast, right? So if that person, that professor is an ally to our VRC, we will add them to the Remind app, and therefore the students can just message directly to the professor, and then the professor gets it as a text message without revealing their phone number, and then the student doesn't have to reveal their phone number because they're actually opting in to this service. So that's the one downside of it, is that they have to opt in to use it, but I'll go more into detail about that in a later slide. And then in relation to the Remind app, we have case management that's remote. So with the case management portion, we have 2 case managers. One's from USC, one's from UCLA. They're interns, and they provide case management in a remote environment through Zoom or phone calls. And what we noticed is that we were getting a large influx of students that were emailing about random items that we were all overwhelmed, bombarded with emails. We couldn't attend to them as fast, right? Whether it was homeless, whether it was, hey, I need a disability claim. Hey, I just got arrested and I need legal help. So what we started doing is we started filtering those students immediately to the case managers and then just sending them over to the interns saying, hey, I got a student that has this issue, right? Make sure you contact them. And then they would follow up with the student. So that way that would come off of our caseload as counselors and as staff in the VRC. And then another thing we started doing is the drop-in sessions. I'm sure people have done this also. We have drop-in sessions on Fridays. And I want to give a shout out. I think Stephanie Lewis is in here, but where our collaboration is, we have an acquired brain injury specialist at our campus. She's awesome, always supports the VRC. So as you know, a lot of veterans have TBI, a lot of TBI that they don't realize that they have until they're in a classroom setting. So what our plan is, we do have the drop-in sessions now, but we're trying to collaborate with the DSPS department. So that way the drop-in sessions include Stephanie, right? Our ABI specialist. So that way, if students have questions, something comes up during this drop-in session. And when I say drop-in session, we basically just opened up Zoom on Fridays and we just have student vets just drop in. And then they have questions about anything. You'll be surprised. They're at home playing video games. They're just hanging out. They just want to talk to people. So that's our biggest thing. And then our collaboration with DSPS is probably going to be the next big major move when it comes to anything, with learning disabilities, students that have migraines, that have TBI and have impacted their, they have to wear sunglasses in classroom, right? They have to wear sunglasses while they're looking at the screen. A lot of students are complaining about headaches because they're sitting there looking at a screen all day. So those are things that the DSPS and our ABI specialist is going to be working with the students to give them new ways of working remotely online. I think that's it for me.
Okay. There was a question about how do we get that information or that contact information for our students? At least what I do is I go through institutional research and I ask them to gather that information for me because they could break it down through CCC Apply. One of the questions is, are you military affiliated, right? So whether you're active duty, reserve, guard dependent, or veteran, then they can actually gather all that information and send it to you. That's how you can create these email lists. That's how you can send out reminders through Canvas and stuff like that. So definitely reach out to your IR and ask them for that information because they can definitely get that for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think something else that Kevin mentioned was allies. Whether you have a professional development workshop or training that you offer on campus, finding those allies at your campus to help you out. That way you can make connections with important other support service offices like DSS, DSPS, financial aid. A lot of financial aid questions come up. So having those resources or those points of contacts at those offices to get the immediate help that our student population is going to need.
Okay.
So again, this is kind of just a summary of the distance education remote services. Is what does your campus have available? So think about that. Make those connections with those other offices. Look at what other campuses are doing. I mean, just do a quick Google search. I looked at different campuses near Cypress and for example Mount Sac. I'm going to put them on the spot right now, but. Good spot. Their website is awesome. What they do, the information that they're able to provide to students is great. Most of us may not be there, and some of us strive to be at that type of level. But they have they're using Zoom to provide drop-in. I think I saw Giselle on here, but Compton College, they also offer Cranium Cafe services. But whatever means you have, find, maybe you could find a work study that can maybe show up for different times to help answer any questions that come up. All right. And then, so what this workshop is all about too is that, again, we mentioned at the beginning that we all have different resources. We all have different types of support systems within the campus, and each campus is going to look different. The needs are going to be different. So what we want to do is we want to break you guys up into groups to where you could maybe share some of your experiences, some of the barriers that you've come up against, and maybe how you got around them to help each other out. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, and Juan, it looks like we got an alert from Cameron
Yeah.
saying we got 15 minutes, so we're
Yeah.
gonna have to
So
yeah.
yeah. So what we want to do is break you guys up into groups for 5 minutes, and what we're gonna do at the end of the workshop is we're gonna post the answers, or we're gonna clean it up and make it look nice, so then we could share that out with everyone else. All right, so we're gonna break you guys. I think Cameron's gonna break you guys up into groups, 5 minutes, and then we'll get you guys back up here and just to get through one more portion of the presentation.
I don't know if we have any time to keep going. I know this is important for a lot of people, but I think there's other sessions after us, right?
Yeah. So just to answer Armando's question, for myself, my positions are I have grant funds, so like I have a special projects coordinator, and the allocated funding allows me to hire 2 part-time adult hourlies, and then I do have 3 VA work studies that help out through the Cranium Cafe, through Zoom, to help give as much information as we can to our students.
Yeah, and for our VRC, we have 2 staff members, full-time staff that are certifying officials, and we have 3 adjunct counselors that work part-time, myself, and then we have a project specialist that's also part-time. And she's on maternity leave until like January.
Yeah. So I put my contact information if you guys have any questions. Kevin, I didn't have
I'll
time to
do it.
put yours up.
Yep.
The last portion was really the engagement part, talking about like different ways to engage students, whether it's through, we mentioned some of the platforms, but also social media and different types of quote unquote club events that we're able to have during these times. But other than that, I think we are definitely out of time. But we want to thank you all for tuning in to this workshop. Hopefully you guys got something good out of it.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say just before everybody kind of checks out, we want just make sure that you're looking at the resources that are available on your campus already. So don't think of like, for example, when Dr. Garcia shared with us at a Region 8 meeting, hey, Cranium Cafe, I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. So I went to my school and I asked them, do we have something like this? And they said, we don't have Cranium Cafe, but we have this other thing, which, it was similar. So we found out about the Remind app through our Pico Promise program, which is our collaboration with the college and the high school. They use Remind to engage all their high school students. So when I brought it up to my dean, they said, hey, why don't you talk to so-and-so because she uses Remind. So there could be resources on campus. I know as a VRC, we tend to isolate ourselves in our own little center, with our students. I do it myself, but if we reach out to other departments, you can find out other resources that they're using. And you're like, wow, how did you know how to digitize your files, or what kind of system are you using for that? Just make sure that you're resourceful and you're reaching out to other people on your campus to find out if you have a resource. That way you don't have to worry about the budget or money. And then also Remind app is free. So just keep that in mind. And then you could use it as a texting service. So the faster that you get the information out to the students, the easier, and then the faster they get a response. And you always want to, you could set your limitations with the Remind app, just to let you know, like if you don't want to receive notifications between 5 and 10 o'clock at night, or 5 and 7 o'clock in the next morning, then you could shut it off so it doesn't keep bothering you if you have students that text you. So you want to make sure you keep your boundaries. But my
right.
contact info is there. So if you have any more questions, make sure you hit me up. And yeah, we're going to close the session now. So,
All right. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. Take care.